Welcome to episode 21 of Paranormal Unwrapped with Krista Raisa and Jack Roth. Krista is a channel teacher and artist. Jack is an investigative journalist, author, and award-winning filmmaker. Viviane Chauvet is an Arcturian hybrid, ambassador, spiritual teacher, speaker, and conscious channel. Today we are discussing paradigm shifts and planetary change. Welcome everyone. Happy Ascension.
Thank you. Yes. Happy Ascension and happy Friday.
Hello, everyone. I don't know what that
Hello,
means,
Jack.
but happy Ascension. Is there a holiday I'm missing?
It's a Chinese New Year, I think.
Okay.
Yes, it's the 26th. It's the Chinese New Year, and there's a lot of change on the planet that we can feel in our being. So happy Ascension, or I would say happy reascension in our case, since we are reascending.
Yes, let's define for all our ascenders what is. I've heard this paradigm shift from Reiki practitioners, from spiritual people in Los Angeles. They talk about, I'm totally changing my paradigm, dude. What exactly does that mean? It sounds like a mental shift in your entire perception.
Well, it truly is. Actually, when we talk about paradigm shifting, is truly tied up very deeply to consciousness. And if you look at even in human history, or even if you look at the natural planetary cycle the Earth has been going through, with each cycle that the Earth has gone through, the human race, every sentient life on the planet, has gone through another paradigm shift in terms of living, in terms of thinking, in terms of questioning more. And if you notice, people are wanting to know more. They're ready to embrace higher aspect of themselves. They're ready to know. I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm working with this client. Is originally from Russia, and then he moved to the States many years ago. But it's also a part of reconciliating that human part of himself through cultural background, family values, different sets of understanding, and also sometimes, like religion factors or other belief system. But at the same time, is part of himself from a higher level. It's he's opening new doors and go like, well, I have those vivid memories, and I know that I have those thoughts. I have those experiences. Did I make them up? Is it part of a higher reality? Is it where, and so you can see that the dialogue we're having, even all together, and even for everyone on the planet, on all level of structures of life, is changing. And so when we talk about paradigm shifting, is that your own reality to everyday life, your reality, my reality, and our reality together as a collective on the planet has a different quality. You notice that it has been redefined as a refinement to our thoughts, to our dialogues with ourselves, to how we are needing to reach out to another, and also build different layers of cultural and also collective and communities connections. I came across a very interesting quote recently from an astronomer. His name is Fred Hoyle. And one of the things he said that it was impossible for higher life forms to have emerged in this way. It couldn't just happen by the natural theory of evolution. Something else occurred. And I really resonated with that, what, this astronomer said. And it really triggers the point of terms of we are truly evolving at a conscious level. And consciousness influences the way you think, the what you believe in. It also influences the evolution of DNA. It also influences the evolution of the magnetic grid of the Earth, how the Earth is evolving. So you start to understand that like a pond with a pebble thrown in it and the ripple effect, the synergy within the ecosystem are starting to come more together in unity. And that's why we can simplify in terms of illustrating what a paradigm shift can represent. I'm sure that you experience that, both of you and all of us listening right now, moving forward on the planet, this type of changes. It's just even the way we perceive ourselves. Yes.
May I interject?
Of course.
Have you noticed, this phenomena? I was talking to my viewers the other day on social media, and one of them, Lulu, said she loves watching dog videos. So I noticed this is really hugely has been trending on the internet, on videos that people take of their pets. And when you start looking into that genre of video, you notice these animals are doing sort of unusual things. They are almost as if they're having this new intelligence. I don't know if they've been that intelligent, but situations where, ducks and tigers and dogs and cats getting along, some of them are communicating almost, they're not human, obviously, but they have these weird sort of things that they've been doing. And it almost seems as if animals are getting more intelligent. Is that possible? Or are we becoming, I met these animal communicators the other day, are we becoming more telepathic? Maybe it's a whole bunch of things that is happening simultaneously with nature as a reflection of a, I might be answering my own question, but what have you guys noticed as a symptom, a sentient symptom, and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. This is fantastic point. You're right. If you look at the animals kingdom, like people taking a video of their pets doing some tricks or looking to the window knowing that somebody's coming or like they're calling you or something very, you go like, whoa, look what are the behavior. The answer we feel is that we're starting to realize that sentient life is as intelligent, and then we're coming to be more in tune with it. We're going to accept it more. If you look at more acceptance from pet owners, people overall observing behavior of even wild animals in nature, and you will have sometime a lion adopting a baby zebra and vice versa, and you go like, whoa, what is it going on here? It's supposed to be out of nature. But that's also part of the evolution, and I love that you bring this up, Krista, because it is part of what we call paradigm shifting, where we thought we took for granted that, well, it's the hierarchy of animal or food chain that a lion will eat as, a gazelle and vice versa. It's not necessarily true anymore. And so consciousness is shifting on the planet as we are more attuned, more telepathic, more empathic. Our heart center is finally returning to its true sense where people's hearts will start to open up more. So we're more in tune with sensitivity and the subtlety of life unfolding around us, such as pets' behavior, animals changing in nature, having more association, forming clans, wanting to be more in peace, living with one another, and so forth. So I love it. This is wonderful.
Does it, are there particular things, what would trigger a paradigm shift? Well, first of all, actually it's a two-part question. So, well, one of them is, and I think that you guys have both mentioned this, that it could be a paradigm shift, could be an individual thing and a collective thing. So that's one. And then two, what triggers it? What would trigger a paradigm shift?
In the collective consciousness and in ourselves?
Yeah, like it would probably be a little different, right? Or how'd that work?
Well, let's take the premise that we are part of a singularity. We think about that it's one omnipresent, infinite intelligence of one mind that we emerge from. We talk about that. Dr. Stephen Greer talked about singularity mind and also unified field of consciousness. At the same time, talks about the individualization of the individual expression that we're here for. What you bring forth here, Jack, is very unique. What you bring here, Krista, is very unique, and no one else can reproduce what you do and what you present and what you come to do. At the same time, to our individual expression, to our mind, to our state of consciousness, to our level of awakening, we're ultimately still connected to that unified field of consciousness, or that singularity, if you want. All there is, omnipresence, and the supreme intelligence. So your evolution, let's say that you wake up in the morning and you have a profound aha moment, something's just triggering you. Well, what's happening is that it's going to shift your reality, right? It's going to shift how you perceive yourself, how you live. even in the 3 density form, every day the way you communicate will have a better quality, more potent communications. Your relationship will improve to yourself, to others. So by, in a sense, affecting your reality, your shift, you also sending that ripple effect, so to speak, in the collective, and the collective receive it as well. So we're going to be impacted by your awakening. And so the premise of as you are being lifted up, all life is being lifted up with you, like other teachers have said before, it's very profoundly true. And I hope that got a good example of this, right?
Right.
Yeah,
You know, I've
yeah.
no, I was just going to say, I feel like I've had subtle paradigm shifts, and then I've had pretty intense paradigm shifts. So is this true too? Can there be levels of a shift? Like sometimes you feel like a little bit like, I feel like something subtly changed about the way I view the world, or about my life, or about something that I feel better about now because of the way I'm looking at things. But then there's those huge aha moments that people have where their lives completely sometimes turn upside down, and they have this huge paradigm shift. So it can come in different degrees, I guess, is my question, right? Could it?
Of course. It's not quantified, just going, it has to be all or nothing. You know, it's like telling there's many, many grades of shade of gray, so to speak, in between, where I think of it as the ladder effect, where you are going to reach a certain level, and then you realize, and then you become master at it, it become natural. You integrate that level as part of your new paradigm, your new way of being, and then you're ready for the next one, and then you start to feel there's other change coming through. You're climbing the stairs, so to speak, and when you're in between, that's where questioning can come, self-doubt, you're questioning what's going on with me. Anxiety can come because you don't understand what's going on. You thought you had it really good here. You understood, you had your beat, you have your certain rhythm, and then your rhythm is changing again. So I like to give this example, even when I work with my clients, is that on your ladder of consciousness, you know, what you said, Jack, is true. You're going to go have some subtle shift, more predominant shift, but nonetheless, everything is in constant change, right? As a universe, you are constantly changing, just like your cells. And they say you grow a new body every 7 years. So in reality, if you ask the age of what is the age of the oldest person on the planet, they will say, well, 7 years in theory, because the cells regenerate every 7 years to a certain degree. But at the same time, those subtlety of changes, everything counts. If you have just a spark of understanding, or like, for example, you know, you feel like you spaced out recently, you're not grounded, something happened that kind of brings you back in front of you, go, you know what, I've been distracted lately, and now this experience happened to help me understand just that key. It can be subtle enough to create another subtle change, a paradigm shift, so to speak, that will help you to redirect the next level. In moving forward, you'll feel more grounded, more refreshed, more present, so you can be present to identify those subtlety of changes and be appreciating them and be able to integrate them as part of who you're becoming more and more. Right? So what's called the blossoming effect. It's a constant effect of expansion. So we always says honor the space that you're in, and also appreciate the subtlety of the changes that you are realizing and making on a day-to-day basis, which in terms, you are also creating a positive force of nature, so to speak, in the collective, everywhere in the community, and even at a planetary level. Because think of it, if we accept the premise, then the Earth, the planet itself, is a sentient being, right? A lot older than we are physically. And then what happened is that as she's shifting, she's influencing us to variation, to the grid, to the magnetic grid. It influencing us emotionally. If we can feel it physically, we can feel it in our DNA, we can feel it at every level. So if she changes, Gaia, Earth is changing, then it reflects onto you and us and all life growing on this planet. well as the same thing, you also influencing her in a shift. So everything counts. That's why people always tell, I encourage people to always recognize from where you are right now, consciously, every leap forward, whether you are said, you know what, I'm incorporating to recycle more, I'm incorporating to feel that I am much more in sync with the earth and the evolution and how things are moving, and even the leap forward, the cycles on the planet are more in sync with the natural rhythm of nature, you are naturally adjusting yourself and creating those planetary shifts as well as a collective shift. Does that make sense?
This is such a helpful big picture, because when we understand the big picture of our planet, we can understand the picture of ourselves as individuals, just as we observe the animal kingdom. I asked this guy in the store today, does divine masculine and feminine, those really exist, or is it just one energy? And the answer was that that external person is a reflection of your inner condition, and the combination of your energy exchange creates a third entity. And but taking this back to the biological aspect, when we're considering the spirit of Gaia, which is something that the Orion Council keeps talking about, I'm pretty sure their ET consciousness that I channel, they keep talking about Gaia this, Gaia that, and they were saying that Gaia wants our help, and we have to send positive thought forms and things. And I'm one of those people, that I like to do things. I don't really sit in prayer and meditation, which is going a little bit off topic, but I want to tie this into consciousness. So when we're talking about the spirit of Gaia, the first thing I'm thinking about, to be honest, is entheogens. Entheogens were wrongly termed hallucinogens in the past to control humanity. So you're just hallucinating. Now they're called entheogens, and they have been legalized just overnight in Santa Cruz now, after first Colorado, Denver, and then Oakland legalized, decriminalized psilocybin microdosing. And when you look into traditions like Celtic traditions, they talk about things like tree spirits, the green man, fairies, earth elemental energies, and people are actually having real experiences of seeing faces in trees and seeing spirits come out of rocks and things like that, with or without entheogens they have. So it makes me really think about things like a planetary spirit. And when Renee asked here, how can I awaken to my ET nature? I've heard through people with entheogenic experience say that they typically have one extraterrestrial body that they reincarnate with. It's like a favorite outfit or something. This is just one theory. And so when people are trying to, like certain starseeds are trying to configure who they are galactically in this cosmic picture, going beyond the planetary consciousness, which most people tap into plants like ayahuasca, as they're trying to figure out the cosmic consciousness next level. And so, for instance, some people are really Andromedans, and they are confused about this topic of higher self, which we can talk about in another chapter, because Buddhism and so on teaches we have many bodies. So people think they have multiple selves. But then I've heard this theory that we have one main extraterrestrial self. And so it is hard to wrap your mind around these sorts of things if you don't have the belief that life goes beyond physicality. If you believe that everything is just the physical, everything that's tangible is real and everything else is not, then we really cannot even have this conversation, which is why we are discussing a potential paradigm shift. So we're discussing these things for people because certain magical things have happened to us, and certain magical things can happen to you. And if it happens, you're not going crazy. You're not going crazy.
Yeah, no, far from it, actually. Far from it.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Viviane? That whole idea of, I didn't know that, by the way, Krista, that's interesting that they Well, you said they didn't legalize it, but they decriminalized it. I didn't know that.
Yep, they're already using LSD in Switzerland to heal stuff like schizophrenia. They're using psilocybin to heal depression. Medical mushrooms have been used for a very long time. And
I'm listening to all this, and I feel like what keeps coming to mind is the idea of how our minds work. When I say mind, and again, it's making that differentiation between the mind and the spirit, but our consciousness, let's just call it that, and the different things that we experience in this world that we live in right now. And if you look at the history of the world, I'm thinking, well, maybe what I was trying to identify in my head, paradigm shifts, huge paradigm shifts that maybe we can pinpoint. And I was thinking, well, maybe the Renaissance was a huge paradigm shift. Maybe that was a huge paradigm shift. Like, I just came to mind, like, well, maybe it's stuff like that, like the Renaissance. But then I think, are there times, do we ever take one step back to take two steps forward? Because I feel like if you think about the Industrial Revolution was huge, right? So was that a paradigm shift? Did that require a paradigm shift for the Industrial Revolution to occur? But then now we go through a different paradigm shift, realizing, well, maybe we shouldn't be polluting the planet. The Industrial Revolution was great when it happened. It really was. Well, for the most part, there were still, people were abusing workers, and that's when, unions had to start, and there was all that. And there was always abuse. There's always abuses. But, and I just wanted to ask, is that how it works? Would it be correct to say, oh yeah, that, or the Age of Enlightenment was a paradigm shift? Like, can we look at history and see how those paradigm shifts have occurred for humanity? I'm talking about collective paradigm shifts and the results of those collective paradigm shifts.
Which are really great questions, and always go back to says, if you look at history, based on which history, make sure that it's current, accurate historical events, and not the one has been prefabricated or just put in books to say, oh, here's the history, to tiptoe and to show that, oh, that's nice, we went from the Bronze Age to using metal, and then we went to the Industrial Revolution and so forth, and look at the technology today, which with the cell phone and computer and all of it, which is already outdated technology, but it looks so modern to us, right? And so we always said from a higher collective is looking at paradigm shift of life in terms of real evolution from a conscious point of view on the planet. And of course, there's different aspects to it. That's why I love our dialogue, because we are like multifaceted aspect of the same crystal, the same diamond, and we're reflecting different aspects, but put together, it forms a much more complete picture, so to speak. And I know that we like to give example and bigger pictures, and painting a certain canvas, and everybody can, or most people at least, can relate to, and then from there we can go into more subtle details and opening. But really, when I like what you say about that, Jack, is looking at the evolution of the human race as a civilization throughout portion of history, but to the true archives of the earth of history, not just the booklet, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But either way, you can tell that if you look just compare the 70s, the 80s, I don't remember the 70s, but like the 80s, for example, to the 90s, you can tell there was a palpable shift. And this is beyond what music revolution or what we have invented and what was put on the microwave versus the oven versus the gas versus technology. If you look at the profound evolution from the transition, it was a natural transition from the 80s to the 90s. We can feel the 80s was an era where so many star seeds were lost, and it was very thick, and it was searching to identify ourselves. So there was a lot of redundancy in the paradigm. It felt a lot thicker. And if you look back in the 90s, there was a revolution in terms, even the way the music slowly changes, Music can be a point of an indicator of how the collective is changing. For example, it's just one very general example, but you can tell even the coming of the new soul on the planet, they came through a lot more awake. They're a lot more decisive about who they are. They understand their position. They're much more confident in themselves in terms of their, here's what we bring the collection, the information. I know who I am. I'm connected. I'm in high school or elementary school, and I can see my team outside the window, and they can talk to me and telling me my teacher is telling me that mathematical formula is incorrect. And then the teacher get offended because they don't understand the new souls who came on the planet, right? And we can relate to that. Go like, oh, this is not right. It's like there's something missing here. But at the same time, we're asking those new souls, right, on the planet, coming with whatever we label them as, whether it's indigo, crystalline, diamond, or whatever, is the fact that it's how they came on the planet with those frequency. And what they do is they are bringing paradigm shifting to the collective. Look at parents who have, indigo children, for example, or even starseed children. They're going to defy their paradigm that was brought them before and how they evolved so far, because they bring a complete different level of consciousness. What is possible, what's not, what is supposed to be, accurate, inaccurate, the discrepancy in terms of even thinking. So that also is a good example of paradigm shift of life on the planet and for people and in families. Look at the educational system. For example, I look at my own teenagers, the way they think, the way they perceive, they go like, this doesn't make any sense, and I'm going to challenge that. Because that's what they're for. They came to challenge and right? And they create, by definition, changes. And so it's forced to speak a certain level of evolution, and those are clinging on terms of the good old ways or a certain way because this is how we've been taught, this is how things have been so far. They're having a hard time to adjust, and it creates more conflict within themselves more than anything else. Well, I love to watch the new generations or even the young children talking. One of the things I love to do is when I'm in a store or a public place, whatever, is I observe how children look at me, whether it's babies, toddler, 5-year-old, 7-year-old. And you can tell that sometimes the way they look at me is sometimes baby going, and they just look at me and they have this big smile because they can feel the energy, they can perceive you, and you're through self, they have no filters. And then how the parents respond to that. I'll give you just a really fun example. It's going to take 30 seconds. I was back then working at a convention in New York, a big convention. We had big names, actors and everything. And I was working with Mark Hamill at the time there. And between holograph sessions, we were backstage, like relaxing. And this woman was there with a beautiful, beautiful, adorable baby girl. She was probably 6 months old. And the baby, just what she could do is just fixate on me and looking at me and looking at me. The mother response was, "Oh, she's looking at you because you have big eyes." And I'm like, yeah, that's true. I have big eyes and big eyes cavity. Our eyes are a little bit bigger, but she don't understand why she was looking at me. It was because I had big eyes. You see what I mean?
That's so funny.
It was hilarious, but at that time, just that dialogue or that presence between the baby and I and the mother saying this shifted the energy around. You can tell everybody was not in the same energy. It's like you can tell that something just came through for everyone, and we were all singing in circles right on the floor in the convention center in New York, and then this interaction takes place. And so, it's just an example that we can smile upon and relate to create and to illustrate how much we are shifting and changing. And I'm sure that both of you have more to add to this.
Yeah, I definitely do. Krista, do you have? Because I just, you sure? Okay. Well, I was, we talk about evolution, human evolution, and then the word revolution just popped into my head. And again, I said, well, revolution must be result of paradigm shift, a collective paradigm shift. And I think about the American Revolution and the French Revolution, which happened right around the same time. And that shift in thinking was, we don't want to be ruled this way anymore. It's not right to be ruled this way. And you had the American Revolution, and then on its heels was the French Revolution, because of a collective shift in consciousness. It's a collective shift in the way people viewed the world, to say, this is not right. Enough is enough. And I wonder, there's always been revolution, right? Always in the history. I keep going back to history, but I'm looking at humanity. I'm trying to get a feel for this from a human evolution standpoint. And when you look at it from a human evolution standpoint, you have to look at how, like, even like you say with parenting and kids, 100 years ago, if a kid did something wrong, you'd smack them. I mean, people would smack their kids. They'd hit their kids regularly. And getting spanked was something that was just status quo. Nowadays, because there's been a paradigm shift, it's like, I don't know if that's such a good thing to do. Like, we're more evolved. We're like, no, they're gonna have to call child services. That doesn't work anymore. People used to beat the crap out of their kids, and it was okay. And if anyone interfered, and this is going back to the 50s, the 60s, not going back that long ago. So you can imagine the whole history of mankind. Yeah. People would, pretty much beat their kids for, breaking a toy. I mean, or, knocking over a lamp, right? But as time has gone on, we're like, wait a minute. Same thing with slavery. We're still fighting. There is human slavery today in different parts of the world for whatever reason. But for the most part, countries have outlawed slavery, right? There's no longer slavery in America, England, France, Portugal, wherever. And again, these paradigm shifts have been occurring, because I guess here's what I'm getting to. Krista, you mentioned before the show, you had said that you just heard from a friend that there's been no snow in Finland this winter. Mm-hmm. And of course, we all immediately like, climate change. That's, we got to be, this is something to be concerned about. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, and here's my question to both of you, and I know you'll have a lot to say about it, and that's why I want to ask it. Can a paradigm shift, what kind of a paradigm shift is required to change, to reverse climate change, to get everyone on this planet and working with Gaia? Okay, right? Because Gaia is constantly changing, like you said, kind of constantly changing as well. And so are we. What magnitude of paradigm shift is required right now in the world for us to reverse climate change and bring things back to the way they need to be?
A public acceptance for biology. Can I just say, because when I could turn on my media channels, as an average person living day to day, normal lifestyle, when I want to access information, I am bombarded with crap. I'm bombarded with lies, fake sales, advertisements for things I don't need. I have to. It takes me time and energy and effort to find a good, valid science article. And so it's just disturbingly, it's changing. I mean, you go to Whole Foods in America and there are these conscious magazines, but the regular grocery store is still celebrity gossip, and then.
Right. Right. Because that's what sells papers, and we got to get it. That's another paradigm we need to change quickly.
Like, I don't care what the Royal House of England is doing for their birthday. Like really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't care what. Are Harry and Meghan going to survive now? Really? Do I give a know what about that? Really? Seriously? Cares? Oh, you don't see. You guys would. I mean, it's when I don't watch that stuff, but when it's on and I happen to pass the room or walk into the room, I can't help but to go off. I can't help myself. I know it's horrible, but I can't help but be like, what the, like, I just can't handle it. And that's part of my paradigm shift, right? Things, I can't handle that anymore. 10, 15, 20 years ago, I tolerated it. Now, unacceptable. Unacceptable, because it's a distraction. I know it's not real. I know it's a distraction from the things we really should be focusing on. And there's a conscious effort from the people who have it on to distract us, right? So, and once you understand that and you realize that, you really realize that, then it becomes something that's intolerable to you.
They're not reporting on, you know, how many McDonald's and Walmart shut down, between 15 and 30 shut down in this last year. That's a huge, huge change. A company worth $90 million. And so when you find a news article of a Swedish billionaire who puts $14 million into Amazon rainforest preservation, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone,
but you're not going to hear that on Entertainment Tonight. You're not going to hear that. You'll have no
because
clue.
You're right. No, this is good. This is really excellent, because it's exactly it. Instead of talking about this millionaire, which is invest into the preservation for rainforests and preserving nature, in terms that they're going to talk about the royal family, and we know what that is. You know, it's very reptilian based. I'm not going to say any more about this. I said out loud. Oopsie. But the thing is, if you look at exactly, valedictorian. Okay, see, this is my effort to incorporate more humor. Okay, I told the team I'd be practicing. So thank you. Thank you.
Good.
You know, I have a human side too. So, but Jack, you're right about that. If you look at magazine, like in grocery store, on the news, oh, the princess such and such got a 2-year-old birthday, and we spent $1 million out of your taxpayer money. I mean, out of generosity for the country. It's we come and go like, we're challenging this, because it shows that there's a natural evolution in terms of who we're returning to and which master we're listening to. I know we talked about this before, but this is something we need to repeat as a positive redundancy. And so when you illustrate, Jack, to say, when the TV is on, I pass to a magazine and it's all about, you know, famous people, people who are, you know, super rich financially, and then how much they spend, and then the next tragedy into plastic surgery and all of this. I don't know about you, all of you, but what it feels to me is I joyfully, you know, walk around the grocery, keeping my energy high, connecting to everybody and talking to the food. And then when my eyes go down to the magazine, I feel like, ooh, you can feel like it's getting thick. It gets you right in that energy. It's almost like a magnet pole that wants to pull you and says, please dive into that paradigm and stay busy, want to know what is the next birthday party going on. Because that, when you do that, like you said, you're being distracted and you're giving out your power to that source, and then you don't question anything else. You not remain in pure consciousness and connection to, where I was here for to begin. Oh, that's right. It's almost you snap out of it and you retract yourself from this denser energy, that lower frequency, and you go back to, okay, I forgive myself. I temporarily, dwell into that energy, and I gave my power going, oh my God, what is this? And then you stop yourself, you ground yourself, you go like, what is it? And you go back being more part of, in resonance with you, and you go back to your day. And when you do that, pay attention to what shift in you, that you preserve your energy, you stay connected, you feel more positive, you feel more clear, you keep your discernment on, you keep this connection to everything around you, instead of feeling like, oh my God, I need to look into, this page and to learn more and then flip it over. I need to buy it to make sure what's coming up next. You're creating right there, you snap out of that lower frequency where they want you to be, or the one they hope you to be. It's a hope that you will take it, and then you continue. So I love that you bring it up, because Jack, really, this is brilliant.
Well, okay, real funny story I have to share. I mean, and this is, I can't believe that I went through a phase about a year ago or so. I think it was when we were working on the second documentary, and for some reason I would go into a grocery store, and you're waiting online to check out. It's Publix here. They're Publix. I don't know what they are out by you guys, but just a regular grocery store. And they have the racks as you check out. They have the Globe, the National Enquirer, People Magazine, all the crap, right? Tabloid stuff. It's all lined up. And on the other side, they had a National Geographic, and then the National Geographic, they were talking about, like, at this one particular time, it was primates, or how their habitats were shrinking, and it was a really good article. we're waiting in line, and I start taking the National Geographics and putting them in the front of every other magazine. So when you walk, so you walk up and all you see is National Geographics. And so they were the front of everyone. And Lisa, my wife's like, "Oh my God, Jack, what are you doing? What are you doing?" The manager's like, he's like, I don't know where he was in an aisle. All of a sudden, he's like looking over. I didn't care. I was like, I have to do this because this is agitating me so much that I did it for a month, like a good couple of months. Every time I go to a grocery store, I would take the one National Geographic or something and put it in front. And literally all you saw was yellow. So the guy behind me comes up next to with his food, and all he sees is all these National Geographics. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, some people would look at me and be like, you've lost your mind. I'm like, no, I'm doing my small part to stop the nonsense. See, I mean, I really felt very compelled to do it.
I completely agree. I totally support Nat Geo. I just don't appreciate the Twitter guy who fought me on Twitter saying Adequalo being is fake. You're being paid. You're being paid to lie.
Yeah, no, I know. And then National Geographic was sold. Was it that it was sold to some guy? I don't trust any of them, but at least the story was about the environment. Whatever. It was better than hearing about Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. They haven't been together for 15 years and they still have the front cover about them together. They're not together. I'm like, when is this going to stop? I am so annoying to the people who have to live with me every day, because I'm like, Michael Jackson's been dead for a decade. Why are they still talking about Michael Jackson? I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like, well, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Don't get me started. I don't want to get off topic, but it does fit into the paradigm shift thing, because people need to realize this is part of the shift that needs to occur. Now I'm all passionate.
I'm about to light a joint right now on national.
We're on fire right now. This is good. This is passionate energy. You go, Jack. We're supporting you, right?
I mean, I had to stop doing it though, because Lisa wouldn't go grocery shopping with me. A, B, I could have gotten in trouble. Like, I know that manager was like, what kind of nut job just did this? He probably had to put all the magazines up. It was all National Geographic. It was awesome. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself. You have no idea. I'm like, yes, I did my part today. I'm good. I can rest the rest of the day.
Oh, wow.
You know what? This is awesome. I'll tell you what, because even though you may have been portrayed or labeled as complete nut and like, what is the deal with this person? You created a shift, something like a pebble in their pond, to question why a client or someone walking in our store would even do that for. And then if they come to you and we said, sir, what's going on? You can simply say, I'm spreading a higher consciousness, and the National Geographic speak about the earth, so thank you for carrying that magazine. You will disarm them so much, because that would be the last thing they will expect you to answer. And you can say it in a very gentle, very, empowering, very positive way, that what you do, you completely throw them off. And then what happened is that, of course, they're a business and it takes time to change everything. But from that particular store, who knows, it can be strong enough to say, you know what, this client is not thinking, and who knows that the business behind the owner, maybe it's family, and then the father or the mother has been very spiritually. I'll tell you what, yesterday we had a technician, coming to our house to change the dishwasher. Now that's very 3D based, right? We all agree that's a very three-dimensional, non-eventful situation. A technician come to your house to change the dishwasher. Well, believe it or not, this act of changing a dishwasher turned into a spiritual conversation, where the next thing we knew, once the technician was done, we were giving him, this person, a little clearing with all tensor ring. We're playing with the tensor ring. We're playing with copper tool energy, giving energy, talking about consciousness energy field. His wife is in the medical field, is branching in terms of more holistic approach, more higher conscious way of healing people. Exchange were done. I mean, it turns into a complete different situation. By the time that person left our house, you can tell that we shifted his energy in every place that person went that day. it created that energy. I know it created a ripple effect. And then
Awesome.
this gentleman looked at us and he said to us, to my fiance and I, he goes, "There's something about you guys, your energy. It's just, I just feel so drawn to it." And then he left and we closed the door, and Peter, my fiance, said, "Oh, he had no idea he was talking to a nocturnal hybrid." And then he's talking to, all of these connections. Well, ultimately at the soul level, we knew that there was, a connection, and he was curious, he was conscious enough, he was open enough to even engage in a conversation while changing the dishwasher. I mean,
Yeah.
that is pretty wonderful. That's a very,
Mhm.
down to earth, right? Example.
Good for
And
him,
we,
right? That he was open to it. Yeah.
yes, and to his wife, and then what she does for even other patients, and throughout the, the traditional medical field has in the structure right now. Can you imagine incorporate more consciousness to be able to have more empathic doctors or nurses or practitioners? We can actually customize and understand, what a person is going through, what changes, what it really means to, assist and help each other. That is profound changes. And that's another example of it, right? Is it amazing?
A QHHT practitioner
Awesome.
showed a chart. Supposedly, if you have a loving aura, the toroidal field is larger than a fear-based. Nothing wrong with wearing black, but in New York City, have you noticed in big cities in wintertime how many people wear black?
Mm-hmm.
Well, supposedly, this makes your aura kind of shielded, and the idea of living in a big city, and what I'm connecting to here is that you can contract your energy field and make it bigger. And so to make it wider is going out in nature and being a loving person. And I could only assume that when you're doing that, is people will get drawn to your energy field. It somehow, but that must have to do with some sort of magnetic quality of your heart, because the heart and they have magnetic fields. And you were mentioning the technology using the tensor rings, the copper rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that because my friend creates, it's called iTaurus. iPyramids creates iTaurus, and you are wrapping copper around a mix of some sort of shungite. Actually, my partner just patented Forganite, which is a mix of shungite, black tourmaline, in a resin with photonic crystal. And so that paired with copper, it actually creates a magnet when it's wrapped enough times in the center. And so I'm not sure. I mean, this is a huge cocktail, but I'm sure that the spiritual people have advice for how to get quote unquote charge up your energy and do this. And with this planetary change, most people are concerned about the temperature and the sun and radiation from the sun, which is really, really, really interesting, because that's something that I lose sleep over as well. But if we are becoming more intelligent, then I could only assume that we have more developing some sort of resistance to certain things in the environment, like resistance to illness, because when you genetically mix animal breeds, they're a little stronger than pedigree dogs, for instance. And so with human beings, and intermixing racially and so on, it's the genetics also get advanced with, of course, with extraterrestrial intervention. And it just seems that we have collective issues that actually also unite us in a sense, is when we are evolving. The idea of extraterrestrials is they've already done this ascension thing. So they have all the answers, and we're just here to figure it out to the best of our ability without getting lost in the sauce.
Yeah, definitely. You're making multiple good points here, Krista. Thank you. Just to briefly touch up on light frequency, different frequency of colors will affect, like red, for example. If you travel in public, red, it helps to protect your energy, and it will deflect the energy of others off. It also close up your primal chakras and optimize the upper chakras, which is why back in royalty, king and queens will have velvet red chair, that they sit on. This is no coincidence. They knew the importance of frequency. Green mint is also very, like any shade of green or green mint in particular, very effective to boost your immune system and your heart. So of course, color frequency will have impactful energy and also fluctuation on the people. There's different also color frequency therapy that we use. Even through glasses, you can look through different lenses of colors, and it works with your auric field, it works with your inner celestial home, with your chakra system, and all of it. And in terms of climate changes, which is another great point, is my collective always says, let's be mindful of not mixing two different aspects to what climate changes is already about. The climate change agenda that we've been pushed onto us that says that, the planet's heating up and pollution, all of it, while we have to be mindful of the planet, yes. We have to be responsible for it, yes. At the same time, it's not to mistake also the natural climate changes through the cycles that the Earth has been going through as a natural occurrence. So we invite everyone to extract the fear factor behind it. And when you extract any fear factor, whether it's climate changes, planetary changes, paradigm shift, your health, maintaining, optimal health, and also, being more resilient, building more coherence even through your heart and tapping into your heart intelligence. The Heart Math Institute is a great example of helping people to understand more, your heart intelligence and building resilience, reducing stress, building coherence. And I love their program. When I became a mentor and coach with them, I can see that as an aspect of it can be tools to work with. But at the same time is that everything is very much intimately tied up to how we are evolving consciously. Everything is energy. Everything is presence. If you're able to even talk to yourselves, being in tune or what's called a quantum communication or quantum conscious communications with every function of your body, and to be able to even clear all of this and to understand how your own metabolism, your own natural rhythm function, and what they put out there in terms of new breakdown, bacteria, here and this and that. Everything comes down to which frequency you tune in and you let in, you accept, turns into a program, turns into a command. The body comply with it. There's a new set, and I do it very simplified. I know it can be a little bit more complex than that, but in a simplified manner is be mindful of what is it you are accepting mentally becomes part of value, it becomes part of your behavior. What is it that you're also sending in terms of, command? Like, for example, kids come back from school. Oh, I got a scratchy throat. It's something moving around. And suddenly you go like, dang, you already have the understanding. There's already an imprint in the mind that says, well, it's moving around. My kids have it. Then I'm next in line, right? We go right in that thinking. We do. We go into that thinking. And why? Because we've been programmed for generations to think of, oh my God, there's a virus going on. And right away you're on red alert. I have to protect myself. What's going on? Instead of saying, okay, what is the mechanism behind it? Who created it? For what agenda? What's really going on? And understanding that we have a lot more control, so to speak, over our thoughts, over our health, over the way your body ages. This is why it ties up. If you look at the big loop that we have been creating all this time together, we are creating a very big loop that ultimately ties everything up together. Whether it's to light frequency, consciousness evolution, paradigm shifting, how the planet is evolving, how we're evolving, even our own DNA. Did you know that 10% of the DNA really is information? 90% is the multidimensional aspect. It's the Akashic record. It's everything that you need to understand about you. But now we're focusing more on the 3% of our brain, the 10% of our DNA. And so you see where we're going with this? We're going to we're starting to refine our loop and to say, ultimately, is that really, be mindful of what you're accepting here, because it has a huge impact on many levels.
I have a question for you guys before we end it today. Is consciousness faster than physicality?
What do you think?
I think so.
I would say yes.
Is consciousness faster? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If it's higher vibrational. Physicality, it's 3D physicality, right? So consciousness got to be way higher frequency than that. If I'm even trying, if I don't even know if I'm trying to process this the right way, but that's what I'm thinking. I would think
the body will follow. Yeah, the physical will follow with consciousness state. But the thing about that, everything within ourselves, even the spaces within a space, the atoms, the cells, the way the organs function, the way your bone vibrate at transmitter and emitters, everything is governed by that infinite intelligence. So if we look at infinite intelligence to consciousness to affect matter, and then as a consequence to have a physical response to it, then we would say yes.
Right. I have a final question for you guys. What is the next great collective paradigm shift? Is it already happening? Or if not, what do you think will be the next collective huge paradigm shift for us? Good question.
For what's
What?
Well,
I'm thinking it's already, I think it has to do with our relationship to, I think it's the way we view our relationship to our planet. Like the idea that it's already kind of starting to occur. The whole idea of taking care of Mother Earth, Gaia, that something has to be done. And it hasn't been an easy, I think it's been I think people have been resisting it for obvious reasons, but I don't think it's something, I think it's a paradigm shift that is bound to occur on such a major level that that's what I would think. But again, the reason I asked it is because it could be something else. It could be something. Is it more awareness of the spiritual? Is that the next paradigm shift? Or ET? Is it a more galactic paradigm shift?
Well, Jack, I like the way you think. I like the way your mind works. I really do. And you know that I just said much love, very much love and respect and appreciation. I love it. So the next, and it's a fantastic question. The next big paradigm shift, what I heard very spontaneously is you are in it right now, right in this moment, in the now. Because the now defines what's, the unfoldment of the now into the future. And the answer is we're right here in it in terms of the greater paradigm shift. We're in it right now. And it's a profound return. Is not only we're returning to identifying, understand truly who you are. And we will say it again and again and again, because this is very essential. This is paramount. Is the next big paradigm shift is occurring right now. It has been occurring on the planet. It's right here, right now. And understanding really the profoundness of who you are, your point of origin, and this is beyond, are you an ET soul? Are you a fairy? Are you a multidimensional being? Is the profoundness of you as a divine spark of creation, omnipresence, all there is. One singularity of mind that we talked about at the beginning is learn to know who you are, to understand really the fullness of you. And I can tell you, and I know I said before, and I will repeat again because it's important, this is something that even I have been told, and still been told daily, you don't know yourself enough. And if you would, this and this and this would not need it to happen. This and that happened because for you to understand and lead you back to unlock the great mystery, if you would, of you. And for that moment, that's what comes in terms of
I love it.
an answer. You love it? Okay.
I do love it.
An
Chris,
answer.
and she's shucking her answer here. She's, what do you think? Or is it just a really bad question? Oh, by the way, for those who are listening, Krista did mention fairies again in this show.
Oh, that was it.
She did. So we're just going to have to do a whole show on fairies, and I'm going to have to do my research because this is going to have to happen. But
I researched them. They're super awesome. I like to play with the fairies, and the gnomes are super fun. They love to play with my cats. You know, the one she's sleeping right now in the background.
Yeah.
They come and they walk around the house and they play.
You guys are the new paradigm. You guys are the shift. It's 111. You guys are the shift in action. You're here now. Thank you so much for today, guys. I really loved all the comments. It was super productive. I hope to see you in the next episode. Check out infiniteheliingfromthestars.com for more work with Viviane Chauvet. And check out J3 Films Extraordinary The Seeding, available on Amazon Prime and YouTube. It's always, I'm KristaRaisa.com. See you next time.